Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by paraphrasing Sir Ted Robbins and embellishing as I see fit. As he quoted a man with a famous name that I cannot recall, he said that if all the human beings were removed from the earth, within 50 years the planet would be lush and thriving all on its own. If all the insects were removed from the earth, within 50 years all life on the planet would cease. It seems we Hello. It seems we humans may hold a lofty place on the familiar food chain, yet we find we must live within a system of much larger truths. Changing Your Other Mind is the name of the program. I am the host, David Schelter. From where I am, out across the waves of whatever it is that makes waves, to all the places any listener might be, warm greetings and welcome to the show. Changing Your Other Mind is about the influence of the subconscious mind, the other mind, on our everyday behavior. Sometimes the influence of the other mind cannot be ignored. It clamors up our lives with directives, with judgments, reasons, feelings, emotions, passions, as well as reminders of embarrassments, chastisements, humiliations, both public and private, discouraging words, and contemptuous looks. The content and impulses of the other mind can be a real downer to have to attend to. Yet, of this necessary attendance, I ask one thing and then declare another. Regarding the downer of having to attend to the content and impulses of the other mind, I ask you, what choice do you have? Then I declare to you that the first truth you must accept if you are to change your other mind, rather than be cocooned by its weaving pattern of thoughts and then held blindly captive. Said for truth being that changing or not changing your other mind is the only game in town. The content and impulses of the other mind create most of the fabric with which we clothe ourselves daily. As much as most of us would prefer to deny it, the majority of our behavior is unthinking in terms of conscious awareness and active engagement. We have patterns, automatic responses to familiar and regular stimuli, from how we drive, to how we respond to coworkers, even to how we perceive clerks and service people we encounter in our daily activities. We have repeatable ways by which we listen to newscasts, choose our clothing, which morning beverage, like addicts with clean shirts, we consume with commitment. We want to deny that the majority of our behavior is unthinking, as described, because if that were true, we would have to figure out who is doing the thinking. We know the answer to that. The other mind, that's who. And the other mind is a steady-state, fatigue-free pumping machine, full of information about being good boys, good girls, about sharing and playing fair, about how to correctly do our schoolwork the teacher's favorite way, about why we should respect people and systems of authority, of whom God approves and disapproves, and why. Our never-resting other mind has no lack of information about why we deserve to be inhibited in our endeavors whenever we see success coming on, as well as information on how to dismantle our own plans, how to self-sabotage our processes and stultify our desires. Thank you, other mind. For our part, steady-state resistance is futile. We are weak and pathetic, especially over the long run, growing weary and whiny, eventually tired of weary and whiny, and so growing judgmental against others. Our discontent is their fault, certainly not ours. We're not run by blind impulses. Our troubles, our mishaps, our going to bed glad for the escape, our waking up anxious and insecure, our mental pictures of empty seacoasts void of any promise-heavy ships coming in is because of those we choose to judge. Our lack of satisfaction is because people keep making stuff happen that interferes with our plans, or they keep getting in our way, or they watch us, and so we do something different than we would have done. What is it their business to watch us try and fail? They would not judge us as persistent because they would not know we've been trying the same thing over and over again, which we intend to do until we get it. They would just watch us once, see us fail, and then start thinking things about what we do well and what we don't do like they do, and wondering why we think we deserve any more than what we have right now. Then we tell ourselves that as long as someone's going to watch us try, yet still think we are pathetic in our assessment of our potential, then we are going to wait, at least until they quit looking. But here's the problem. Lots of people looking. Oh yeah, and pretty much no time when no people are watching and judging, classifying, shaking their heads in solemn resignation for our unfortunate plight in life, which is, of course, a life of being a dimwit, a severe lack of keen awareness, and significant and pitiful self-delusion that is, just so hard to watch. There is never a right time to do anything. There are always 1,050, at least over 800 believable, on average, believable reasons not to do something. There is definitely no time to do a thing without someone watching. And that gave me an idea, by the way. Maybe I could do something that the watchers would want to watch. If I did that, then when they watched, I could stop doing what I was doing. When they told me, please go on, I would tell them it would cost them $1. Or at least an old gift card they might still be carrying around from last holiday season. Then I thought, people might think I was stupid. Who's this head and face, they would wonder, with its flailing arms, almost standing up to pronounce insights at the rate of about 4 an hour. Look, see, there he goes again. You see, I don't want people saying of me, there he goes again, because I watch TV. And I know that men of whom it is said that there they go again are men other people are thinking about and wondering if they ever pee themselves. And what might have been the most embarrassing public accident they have heretofore experienced. Plus, when everyone says, there he goes again, people always look at your shoes when you walk past them, looking for watermarks. So I haven't decided if I could do something people would want to watch or exchange gift cards for, even gift cards with a minimum remaining balance. I know it will never be the right time to get started, and that I should start now. But even if I believe I cannot overcome what seem to be restrictive circumstances, I could at least start thinking, what if everything around me was a lie, and it was really possible for me to have lots of what I want lots of? What if, dadgummit? What if, jolly old bean? What if, home slice and fellow astral traveler? What if the stuff you wanted really were possible? What is not right about now to do what you want to do does in no way, according to my textbook, prohibit you from managing and imagining and wanting and believing how utterly cool it would be to have more and have even lots of the things you want. Further experience will tell you that just thinking about cool stuff will render all that is not right about now to appear less convincing. Now consider, if that which did appear as not right now appears less convincing, it follows that there must be a place where what appears to be not right may well be just right. So, if what appeared not right can be right, then it follows that all of what appears to us as reality can, from some particular perspective, be seen as right. All of that which seems not right, and all of that which seems right, can all be right. Ain't that all right? Now, since it is the case that the influence of the other mind cannot be ignored, it must either be accepted and dealt with, or it must be accepted and given permission to do what it will. And I'm telling you right now, more than not, the other mind will make all of that which seems not right, plus all of that which seems right, to all appear not right. The clamoring suggestions and directives of the other mind are a real part of perception. And so the evaluating, and so the choosing, and so the creating of our own circumstances is done along with, against, and in spite of the other mind's influence. You may have heard of the saying, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. This applies to the other mind. If we get close to it and stay close to it, all through awareness, then we can closely track its insidious attempts to interfere with our well-being, with our optimism, with our sense of promise. Excuse me. Therefore, there is real wisdom in this saying, keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. I say, however, if you choose this particular practice, prepare by hiding small valuables. And make sure if you're going to the store or to work that you take your enemies with you. Who knows what they might do to your house or the food in your refrigerator? They might even hack into your computer and change your email password. Enemies can be vicious. And that's what gets me about keeping your enemies closer than your friends. Friends might hack into your computer, and they might respond to private email, and they may present themselves as you, and then send ignorant statements how they, as you, feel pleased to ignore social customs, such as washing oneself, and not burping the vapor of digestive acids into the faces of people with whom they are engaged in light conversation. But friends would never hack into your email and change your password. Only an enemy would deny you easy access to the pleasure of your overstuffed electronic inbox. Don't you know it? Personally, I'm certain I would tire quickly of enemies kept close, who did nothing more than eat my food and change my passwords. Were I an enemy of someone who was keeping me closer to himself or herself than he or she was keeping his or her friends, I would be clever enough to establish a virus on their computer which would shut down every operation and process except that which presented email. And the computer would only return to normal once my enemy had responded in full sentences with no text message abbreviations to every single email he or she has received, and to respond as such on a daily basis. Would that the world was such as that world actually found me clever. But would I forfeit sterling manliness for being clever? Would I barter my untold wealth and influence to have history declare me as clever, as well as a humanitarian who gave so much back to society that he could rightly declare Bill Gates and Warren Buffett as paupers whose greatest contributions compared to mine were little more than a few coins in the open guitar case of a street musician? Clever is as clever does, and mosquitoes will fly planes before I can create a virus worthy of the dastardly deeds my becoming judgmental of others would compel me to commit. In like fashion, of those keeping their friends close but their enemies closer, we want to get close to the other mind. We want to glimpse the dark theater of the other mind and witness arms and hands silhouetted against the projection cameras, sending up yet another film of illusion and misdirection. And let me tell you, there was an instance, when I was but a lad, when one of my enemies was so close, I could not move. It was attacking me, and I could not move. The event was traumatic, yet somehow it provides me with a wave of erotic remembrance and calls to the mind the name of one Cassie Fresno. It was late fall, and I was on the school bus, and it was early, because it was always early when I got on the bus. So I guess you could say it was early because so far it seemed like any ordinary day, which has me on the bus early. True to just like any ordinary day, along came John K., who we called John K. because he had 13 letters in his name. Most of them made syllables we could not say. People at work called his dad K13. "I can sit here?" John K. asked, indicating the empty seat beside me. John K. always asked questions that way. "I can play too? I can sit here?" "How about there?" I would return, indicating the entirely empty seat in front of me. We were early on the bus, and there were plenty of open seats. Besides, a couple more stops, and Rachel would get on. I can see that, John K. asked, having taken the seat in front of me, plopping sideways to look back at a drawing I was making. It's not done yet, I told him. I can see that, he asked again, this time pointing. I handed him the sketch pad. That is a vice, he asked. Trust your eyes, I told him. Whose head, he asked, then added, I can't tell, is it a boy or girl? That's the head of every parent on earth, I told him. Every parent who thought girls told the truth, but who, in real life, if they were somebody's sister, were actually pathetic liars. You get in trouble? He asked. Now, I would rather have been sketching visions of vengeance, producing pictures of pain infliction, with all the spiky lines and a sense of chaos. Instead, I was listening to John K.'s questions, bouncing along beneath the two bright interior lights Mrs. Campbell, our bus driver, insisted on having on all morning, all school year. A couple of stops, though, was where Rachel got on. Me staring at Rachel, once she got on the bus, always made John K.'s voice seem dimmer and more distant than usual. Rachel was a sophomore in high school. She left scent when she walked down the aisle, like sleepy flowers, glad to be waking up in the morning sun. At the high school was where I had to leave her scent. Bounding off the bus to join her friends, she would leave a swirling trail behind her. I always tried to find traces of it when I got off, which was difficult because I had to hurry to get on the junior high bus and leave again. I hated the junior high bus. People always thought I was mature for my age, and I think Rachel did too, though she never said as much. Still, I felt like an infantile eunuch when I had to get on the junior high bus. A lot of the time, Rachel did not ride our bus home, so our parting there at the high school would be the last time I could see her or smell her, all the way until the next early morning bus ride. You got in trouble? John K. was still asking. No, I snapped, not really liking to, but knowing John K. was used to it. It was a familiar response because John K.'s never-ending process was to produce a never-ending series of questions. Liar, he said. You don't understand, I told him. Every time things are going well for me, especially when I'm pleased with my parents, I embody their personhoods in drawings of vices and crushed heads. I do it because it gives me that particularly warm and fuzzy feeling one only gets from being loved and appreciated by their parents. You in trouble, he said it. Your sister not mad. Why would she be? I asked, then added, it's all too obvious, even to the flies sucking particles off poop in our yard, that my parents trust her more than they do me. Taking her version of some stupid story of missing cookies and late night, prohibited by martial law, television watching. They probably love her more than they do me anyway. I'm sure they think she is God's only beacon of light. As far as kids in the house go. Only 2 kids, John said flatly. I know how many kids my parents had, I told him. What do you think I am, some kind of ignorant vegetable with no fingers to count on? Your sister is the beacon, he asked. She never lies. That doesn't make her right, I said, quietly but in a yell whisper. Sorry to say, John began, finally handing my sketch pad back to me. It does. And your sister cute. My sister liar, I muttered as I looked out the window, and parents stupid are. Meanwhile, the far sky was starting to lighten up. Inside the bus, however, it was much brighter than it needed to be. Finally, we turned left on Beecher Road. Rachel's stop was next. As we approached, my heart jumped and my cells were, seemingly immediately, ingested with adrenaline. I saw 2 human silhouettes, not 3, and the small one could only be Cassie. There was a 50-50 chance Rachel might not be riding the bus. Death alone could ease my unease. Don't even look at me, I thought to John K., and don't ask me stupid questions or I'll hammer my fist down on your shoulder-to-neck muscles like a timpani drummer in a sweat, beating out the power of crescendo as the symphony rolls to a finish. 2 silhouettes, not 3, might as well be death. It is a realization not unlike the first crystal in the freezing of the mind, in the settling of time, in the silence of full psychotic stillness. If Rachel was not riding, it would be a full 24 hours before my even remotest next chance to swim in her wafting wake of wistful garden scents. Instantly, everything ached, and would ache until I went to sleep that night. In the morning on the bus, I would be disoriented with anxiety, wondering if I would see 3 or just 2 silhouettes waiting the arrival of the long and squeaky school bus. Rachel not get on? John K. asked. Randy K. not get up? I thought, when thrown out the bus window and trampled by the friendly but panic-prone deer in the field. Yet I said, so, dipwad anyway? She's just another person. Not everybody rides every day. People have these things, called lives. Ever heard of one? Hey, I know. John K., why don't we play a game? I'll say a word, and then you say, hey, I need to get one of those. Ready? A life. Rachel not get on? John K. asked, as if it was the first time the idea had occurred to him. But I was not listening. I could not hear. I was expanding with light, the light of promise, the light of early morning gently warming, the light of reassurance. There, cut out against the lightning sky behind the house and across the field, was Rachel's definite hairstyle. Oh, lofty breeze, I remember thinking, sweep along the clouds from my skies. Oh, silent diaphragm of mine, pull yourself down, and in the pulling draw the life-sustaining oxygen deeply into my lungs. Let me breathe and so live in the sunshine of clear skies. Let the telltale silhouette be a signpost to my ultimate, absolute, singular, and final real self. That in my most ultimate, absolute, singular, and most final other mind, that I am safe and that Rachel lives. I also remember thinking about what I did not say to John K. when he asked me to sit next to me, which was that I would never let him sit in that seat when there was a chance that Rachel would be riding the bus. They were 3 days in a row that she skidded in sideways to bring her shoulder and the side of her butt and leg against me, swooshing a bunch of her smell all around me, like sparkling dust that disoriented me with a delightful confusion. Had I actually said all that to John K., I would likely have continued saying, it was 3 days running that she slid into the empty seat next to me, looking down at me with her excited, challenging eyes, asking me, how you doing, sweet cheeks? Since those days, it had been forever and a lifetime. Yet since those 3 days, every day I would have to hear, I can sit here? I would hear that question, and I could see house thermometers, such as are visible through kitchen windows, bursting from the overheated and so rising mercury. I would hear that question and be overwhelmed with the desire to run in circles in a square room, in such a manner as that the circumference of the circle, being larger than the capacity of the room, was truncated by the room's walls, resulting in me smashing into and sliding along one wall after another. All just to process the reality of John K.'s repeated expectation about whether or not he can sit there. I would send him along to the front seat in front of me, which he took daily without a fuss. Then I would wait, as though standing barefoot upon glass eggshells, day after day until her stop. Although I expected her to walk past me and sit further back on the bus, as was the custom of the older kids, still I would never let John K. sit in the empty seat beside me. If someone was sitting there, the mathematical chance of her sitting there was absolute zero, and I couldn't live with that. I can live with that? John K. asked when I told him to quit asking to sit by me. when I told him to just live with the fact that 0 times in history would he sit beside me with so many empty seats around us, especially when Rachel was not on yet, when she had not passed my empty seat and had not made already and completely her choice to sit in back. But I forgot all about that John K. living with anything the moment I noticed that of the 2, but not 3, silhouettes, one of the silhouettes had Rachel's hairstyle. It was as if Maria and the Von Trapp family singers were holding a complex harmony that they were sending out across the foothills from the grassy mountaintop in the sun, sending such sounds of music as that which makes the hills come alive. Like cotton candy were my spirits as the bus squeaked and lurched to a stop. Especially bright lights came on as the bus driver flipped the doors open. Runway lights they were for me at this house. And look, ladies and gentlemen, here is our first girl, bratty little sister Cassie, Scourge to Rachel's good name. Note the ratty outfit and the unruly hair. This spawn of ugly tide, a burden to junior high boys trying not to be ninnies and teachers' pets, was a regular pest to me in a junior high emasculating way. As she lumbered down the aisle, Cassie looked at me as if I was stupid. Then her eyes flashed. Immediately I tried to block the seat with my hand. She sat down, hard, square upon my hand. I remember feeling both of her butt cheeks at once on the back of my hand. For a sliver of a minute I thought one day I could grow to love Cassie. Yet a sliver of that same minute later she was pounding on my forearm with her fist. Over and over she wailed, yet sat so heavy on my hand that I could not slide it out. I remember thinking, while my arm seemed to implode with chaos, how I wished my hand was turned over. Then, as I yanked my hand from beneath her junior high butt, which was where her sister's high school butt was supposed to be, that my fingers, for all of my forearm's distress, might trail the butt cheek contours and so find a moment of their own joy. I did not, however, linger long upon the thought. With a surge of gusto, I yanked my hand hard and it came free. Little pervert, Cassie called me with a final flurry of fists. Fat ass, I said, which was a lie because I could still feel her small ass in the memory of my hand. The hand at the end of the battered arm I was rubbing furiously. I would have lingered upon the memory of that feeling, cementing it as a permanent part of my pictures of Lily experience, as the Who might put it, but I was waiting for Rachel to take her place on the Fargo Walk of Fame, as the rank strangers might put it. Get out, I told Cassie, trying to push her into the aisle. Like a hammer, she pounded me in the same forearm, in a spot she must have pounded before, maybe several times. I saw flashes of light over the pain. This seat's for Rachel, I grunted with a monumental surge of power. As Cassie landed on her non-fat ass in the aisle, with a smile on her face, I knew I had made a fatal mistake. My crush on Rachel was now out, and the embarrassing truth was possessed by a formidable and ruthless opponent, little Miss Cassie Fresno. You little puke, Cassie said, standing. You have a crush on my sister. I told myself I would die of embarrassment, then suffer from harassment later. But right then I sent my attention to the front of the bus, where I could finally see the top of Rachel's head as she climbed the bus steps. Meanwhile, I heard Cassie's words. Hey, everybody, the little Girl Scout Schelter thinks he loves Rachel, as she spread the news to the relatively few kids already on the bus. I could hear the words, but only as if they were distorted, like voices in really old movies. I could hear the words that would one day, perhaps the same day, mock me like warriors mock an effeminate eunuch. Yet I was not listening. How could I? I was dead, flying backwards in the burial caves of my mind like a high-speed backwards bad dream. Suddenly, I was sure I was floating in a tin can, far above the world. Planet Schelter was blue, and there was nothing I could do but stare in disbelief. There, beneath the hair done in Rachel's style, was Sarah, Rachel's other sister, who was a senior that year. "Why did she do that?" I accidentally said out loud. "She can do that?" John K. asked. "Schelter loves Rachel," Cassie was saying loudly, "except now he loves Sarah because her hair looks like Rachel." "You better take your eyes off me," Sarah said, walking by. "You little mama's boy. You probably touch yourself too, you little twit." "He loves you, Sarah," Cassie said, looking straight at me, that gleam glowing greedily in her eyes. I cringed because she knew she had a winner. She knew I would call for mercy on the "this seat's for Rachel" harassment, which we both knew was no more likely to happen than for scientists to discover the buzzing of bees was not a function of their wings at all, but was due to their fast finger-picking of tiny bee-sized banjos the worker bees played continuously by virtue of the Queen's decree. "Sarah cute," John K. said. "I can love Sarah too?" "You can love me," Cassie told John K. "Really?" he asked. "Not," she answered. "Love Schelter here. He seems to love everyone." Again, I could hear words, but could not follow them. I was sucked into a portal of dismay. I could see, vaguely but certainly, outside the bus and in the Fresno's driveway, Rachel Ruby Fresno climbing into the driver's seat of one of her parents' cars. It meant she had her license. She was driving to school. She would never ride the bus again. She would never sit in my empty green vinyl seat again. She would never again bump me with her hip and thigh and shoulder, swirling me in her presence as she plopped down next to me. She would never again ask me, "What's up, sweet cheeks?" In my dreary contemplation, I never noticed that Cassie sat back down on the seat next to me until she started singing that song, "Who Do You Love?" Even then, I only looked at her and did not care what she was singing. "Cheer up, Schelter," she said. "Many dweebs such as yourself grow out of their pathetic immaturity and go on to live somewhat normal lives. All depending, on, of course, on how you describe normal and then somewhat normal." I did not cheer up, but rode in silence, staring out at the leaves full of muted color, and at the fields all harvested except the corn, which was pale and dried out. When we got to the high school, Cassie made me walk in front of her, poking me in the back, telling me to "move it along, Nancy boy. Some people do not have all day." At our junior high bus, she made me get on in front of her. While deciding which seat to take, she pushed me into one of them. And then she plopped down next to me, her hip, thigh, and shoulder tight against my own. "What's up, sweet cheeks?" she asked, then went on. "What, you thought you were done with the Fresno girls?" "God have mercy on me," I said, from my disoriented head all the way to the pestilent and persistent fungus living in the spaces between my toes. "Don't forget the subsequent odors that foot-festering life force causes you to emit," Cassie said. "Oh, that," I said. "And watch your hands," she said, giving my shoulder an extra bump, "and leave Cassie's little sweet cheeks alone. For now." Even though I felt bruised and battered, emotionally wrung out from a morning that already seemed 3 days old, and I had been wondering what evil lay in store for me from the Tasmanian-like devil beside me, as our bus lurched forward and the interior lights went out, all of them, I had a small sense of satisfaction, some anticipation, and a desire to take a closer look at Cassie. When I finally dared to, she caught me and asked, "What are you looking at, streak cheeks?" Then she asked me, why don't I learn to clean myself, at least once a semester or so? And then she punched me in the arm, hard too. Ladies and gentlemen, Changing Your Other Mind is the name of the show. FlintTalkRadio.com, Tuesdays 2:20 is the place and time to find us. Your Other Mind, your_other mind at yahoo.com is where you can put in your 2 or 7 cents. Thanks for watching, and remember, embrace life. Thank you.